You're watching HFO-TV.
Hi, I'm Greg Frick, partner at HFO Investment Real Estate here on HFO-TV. Today we have Troy Dross, a senior planner of the City of Portland, and we're going to talk about the Central City 2035 plan and Quadrant rezone or
Quadrant plan, concept plan.
Concept plan for the Central City. Maybe we could, I know we've had, somebody from the whole city, maybe give a definition of what Central City is. I mean, we hear that term a lot, but maybe what the definition is from a city standpoint.
Sure. The Central City is both the west sides and the east sides of the river that are really the closest parts in. So it's where the highest rise development is. Okay. On the east side, it goes out to about 12th Avenue. On the west side, it goes up to about the West Hills, so Goose Hollow, roughly. Right. It also includes the Lloyd District, the Rose Quarter, and Lower Albina Industrial Area.
And does it go up interstate? Is the interstate?
No, it really stops at about Russell Street.
Okay, so we're talking the Central City, the core then?
Yes. Okay,
and is this part of the comprehensive plan, this kind of looking at it again? Got it.
Yeah, it's a component of it.
A component of that?
Yeah, it hasn't been updated since 1988. It's the last time we had a policy update. We've had some zoning changes along the way, so the things that happened in the Pearl District, South Waterfront, those have been updated along the way, but now we're looking at really what's the next 25 years look like.
So like what happened in the Pearl, where it was a complete, I mean that's like a one-time, they kind of look at that opportunity, they can change. This is more of a comprehensive plan looking for the next 30 years, 20 years. Rather
than look at just one district, we're trying to look at the whole piece and really see how they all connect together, what role each of the districts play, how are some of them different, how they work together, all of that.
You know, this recovery has been the first time in my lifetime where we've seen the job growth and the immigration really concentrated within the city of Portland, not Washington County, not Clark County, not Clackamas County. What, and then we look at where job growth is going to be, where are these people going to work? How, what do we got to do within the Central City to, protect the jobs that are here, kind of keep that going? I know, comparing Central City to like the Pearl, where it's very residential.
Sure.
I mean, maybe give a little insight on, where that's going.
Well, right now, like the west side has about 87,000 jobs, and they're looking at growing by about 30,000 over the next 20 years. Okay. A lot of that's going to be in professional services, so it's going to be real estate, some of the institutions that are there, PSU, OHSU. It's going to be in finance and law firms. And this side of the district, we're looking at about 9,000 job growth. We're already about 17 right now. It's an industrial area, but now we're looking at how industry is changing, so it's including things like industrial design, graphic design, advertising, architecture, engineering. It's including software companies, people who manage and produce web-based products. And so we're looking at bringing more capacity in for that type of industry here right now, because right now this area is zoned for fairly low density employment growth. And on the west side, we're looking at, and in the Lloyd District as well, we're looking at really trying to figure out how to bring in the infrastructure and the programs that help support more job growth.
So that's working with the transportation department and making sure we can get transportation to these jobs. And
that it's a matter of parks as well. Employees use parks as well as residents do. It's looking at other programs that Portland Development Commission might be working on, for instance, that help stimulate job growth or bring in ties to the local universities or even to the local high schools.
And then what about on a zoning side? Is it changing the zoning, or is it making the zoning more expansive to where, in an IG zone, it's, it used to be this, now maybe a software designer can go into that zone? Or defining it in a better way? Yeah,
I would say most of the Central City, the focus is really trying to figure out how to do infrastructure and programs to increase the capacity. The Central East Side is definitely going to be about changing the definition of what industry is. So the industrial sanctuary policy that really established the zoning we have here was created in the 1970s, and it looked at industry the way it existed then. So it was looking at warehouse and distribution, manufacturing, as kind of places where just one thing was done, one product was moved in and out. Now we see that manufacturing is happening on much smaller floor plates. Sometimes they're as small as 1,000 square feet. We've seen them as small as rooms that are even less than that. They may be doing 3D printing, they may be doing prototyping, they may be doing the design, and they may be marketing from the same space. So everything's really changing. We're also looking at a lot of, rather than a widget being made that you can hold in your hand, we're talking about digital products. So it could be anything from plans to software to things that are in the web or out in the cloud. So what we're looking at is how do we expand the definition of industry to include those industries as well, because that's where we're seeing the most growth in this district at least.
Yeah, no, that's where we're located, and we see, I mean, it's the amount of designers, software, branding companies. I mean, it's just exploding over here on that side.
1,000 jobs grew during the recession in this district, and it was an 8% growth rate annually compared to the rest of the region, which was well below 1.5.
And it's always millennials coming here too. So it's so how do you work with that district, tying in with where they're going to live, and in the proximity of that? And
we're finding people want to live close to work, and a lot of people who work in this district live in the inner southeast. So.
Now, is this plan kind of in process? I mean, where are we in the process of kind of looking at this? Something that's being rolled out next year? Or?
Yeah, so we're looking at trying to have a land use proposal for our stakeholder advisory group that will be available in the beginning of the year, so probably January, February.
Okay.
That will then go through a bit of a public review process, go to the Planning and Sustainability Commission sometime in very early summer, and then City Council sometime midsummer, and hopefully that plan will get adopted then.
And then once it's adopted, it's in place. There's
unfortunately not. So okay. The one thing we're following behind the city's larger comprehensive plan process, and so until that process is complete and been authorized by the state, we have our hands tied about making zoning changes, especially to industrial and employment lands. So we'll be waiting for the state to authorize that, and then the zone changes that we're talking about will go into effect. But the plan is being fairly specific about what type of zoning and the zoning tools we put in place in this district.
So in essence, you're going to be sitting there waiting, ready to go. As soon as the state says, okay, the comprehensive plan is fine, then you guys can act on the changes that have been vetted out. And
that's the plan.
That's the plan. Yeah, now. Okay. It always works the plan. That's great. You never know. Yeah. Any big surprises in this whole process that you've seen that's kind of maybe sit in your years as a planner, like, hey, wait, this is something that was a little unexpected, or?
No, I think there's a lot of concern about trying to protect a lot of the existing businesses that are here, and we're trying to put together a plan that will make sure that all those existing businesses can stay intact, but that we can broaden the definition so the new industries can come in as well. I think the one thing that maybe surprised me is when we started this, we were expecting to hear people say, "Why aren't you just flipping the zoning over there? Get rid of the employment, get rid of the industry, do an East Side Pearl." We really haven't heard those voices, and I'm glad.
Right. I mean, it's just from our experience with people, they've wanted to really kind of keep this more of an industrial, job growth, not residential. Let the residential be a little further to the east or service what's on the west. But we do need a job kind of corridor, and that's kind of what the bent seams to be on this.
There's nothing but support for that, so I'd say that's a happy surprise.
And I just this is kind of off. Do you consider the other thing we hear on the older kind of adaptive reuse? Seismic upgrade. I mean, does that get into the plan at all, or is there a thought about, how are we going to do the zoning on this with a 1920s unreinforced building, or do you guys get involved in that? Is that a whole nother?
Well, it's usually a building code issue, and we haven't been asked to lighten those conditions at all, those requirements by the code. There may be some situations where you're targeting a certain industry to come in. They have to do a rehab of a building. They might talk to the Portland Development Commission, for instance, to get some financing to help kind of fill the gap on that. We haven't seen a lot of that over here, though, as far as I know. It sounds like a lot of the projects that have done rehab have mostly taken it on themselves, though there's probably been some subsidy. It hasn't been as big an issue as I might have been expecting, but I think the market's over here for this type of rehabilitation.
Right.
So I think in some ways it's being taken care of.
And just in the changing of the demographic and kind of the population, how are you servicing on the transportation side? Is this, are we looking at job growth and we need more parking, or is it no? Hey, with this kind of job growth, we can service this with less parking, but it's more public transportation. You can kind of maybe give a little insight on that.
Parking's a huge issue. This district's really hard to park. Right now, there's a new parking plan that's come in place. It's being managed in part by the city and part by the Central East Side Industrial Council, who has a Transportation Management Association.
Okay.
They're looking at different ways to open up more parking. So, for instance, one of the things that we've identified is there's approximately 3,000 to 4,000 parking spaces peak hour that are not being used in this district because they're off-street parking. They're in surface parking lots. The code prohibits the owner of one lot from allowing someone in a different use to come use it. So a building across the street can't use that surface parking lot. That was done really back in the 1980s as a way to stop people from parking this district, hopping on Fairless Square, TriMet service, and going across. Now that that's not really such a viable option to any people, we think we can start to open up those parking spaces for other customers and employees of the district, which would solve a lot of the parking problems overnight. Although as the district grows, we are going to have some more constraints. So we're going to be looking at how much more we can wring out of the existing on-street parking as well as the off-street parking. And at some point, we might be looking at trying to do some district parking as well. So helping through maybe a public-private partnership with a development project to bring in maybe some more structured parking or maybe a larger supply of off-street surface parking, for instance.
To service all the employment that's
for employees and customers only.
Right,
yeah.
right. Again, it's not a residential district for the most part, so
yeah.
I hope that's the direction.
Yeah, the economics are going to have to change a bit in the district before we can see that type of easy support for structured parking, but that would be the long-term objective. Now,
can people get involved in the kind of the process, or comments or things like that? Is there a way to do that?
Yes, we'll be doing this. Like I say, a public review draft will be coming out somewhere in the time frame of March.
Okay.
And then we'll be going through 2 months of review with still having an active stakeholder advisory committee. People are welcome to come to those. They're usually the first Thursday of every month.
All right.
They can contact us or go to the Southeast Quadrant website directly and get all the information there. We'll then be going through a couple hearings with the Planning Commission as well as with the City Council. So, and each of those will have opportunities for public testimony.
Got it.
And we're happy to answer questions. We go to a lot of different committee meetings, neighborhood associations, and you name it. So we're happy.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for coming. It was very informative. We've been in this district for 11 years now, and it's been, it's changed dramatically in the time we've been here, from, parking, just to the type of jobs we've seen, and just the, the age of the people working here is, it just ties into Portland. Is the millennials all coming here, and the, like I said, software designers are all seem to be working down here. So it's been very interesting to see the rapid change of this neighborhood.
People have discovered it.
Very much so. So again, thanks again, and you can get more information at the website here at the bottom of the screen, and thanks for coming again on HFO-TV.
Thanks for watching HFO-TV. To learn more about HFO, call or visit our website.